Back our panel for this Friday morning, the former Lieutenant Governor of New York and New York Post columnist and Newsmax contributor Betsy McCoy, Project 21 National Advisory Board member and radio host Christopher Arps, and joining us today in studio, WABC radio host Lydia Serrani. All right, first, former President Barack Obama campaigning for Raphael Warnock in Georgia. Again, the runoff just a few days away, calling out Herschel Walker. Take a listen.
Since the last time I was here, Mr. Walker has been talking about issues that are of great importance to the people of Georgia, like whether it's better to be a vampire or a werewolf. This is a debate that I must confess I once had myself when I was 7.
Chris Arps, I'm going to go to you first. There's one school of thought here is that he's back. Obama is back for another round of campaigning, which means Democrats could be really worried here. What do you make of it?
Well, this is going to be a close race between Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker. Warnock only won the general by 37,000 votes. And we're almost up to this election. So they're bringing in the big guns, Barack Obama, to stump for him. And it's common that we see President Obama during his presidency that he can be sarcastic. And that's part of his campaigning style. Look, President Obama has been out there since he's left office. He's campaigned for many, many candidates, and his record is not overall that good. So I think this is more to try to get the base gymmed up, but I don't know how much this is really going to get Democratic voters out.
I mean, I think you do have to give it to President Obama, former President Obama. He's a good speaker. He's very comfortable there on stage. He can be very funny. He can relate to the crowd. Obviously, the opposite of Kamala Harris, the opposite of President Biden, who can barely string together 2 sentences. I mean, could you imagine President Biden, Kamala Harris, and John Fetterman having a conversation with each other? So, obviously, Democrats, they're afraid to have Joe Biden or Kamala Harris go campaign for them. I think it's a great idea. I think they should go out there and be on the campaign trail. Betsy McCoy, you are the type of person that's never one to hold back. What do you think? Does Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, do they help or hurt a candidate?
Well, clearly they hurt, and that's why they're not being invited to stump for the candidates.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know what's interesting, too, about all of this is that Trump has said that he is not going to go to Georgia to campaign for Walker. Walker is now campaigning with Brian Kemp, who Trump tried to get thrown out of office in a primary. The dynamics are so incredibly interesting. Chris, early voting is in Georgia is setting just set a single-day record. Now, I was told that Georgia's voting laws amounted to Jim Crow 2.0 and that there would be widespread voter suppression. Clearly, that's not happening. But early voting isn't necessarily the Republican strong suit. Is it a concerning sign in a race that, as you said, is going to be this close?
Yeah, it is a concerning sign because Democrats have kind of mastered this electoral process since the pandemic is to have a lot of people vote early or mail-in votes to try to stack up a big lead before the general election. And Republicans have taken the tack that they're going to vote when they come to Election Day. So it's going to be a very interesting race to see what exactly happens at the end.
But I think the Republicans have taken a lesson from this election cycle that in the future, they're going to work very hard to get out their votes early as well.
Yeah.
Chris, before we move on to the Democrat spending bill, as a black man yourself, I wanted to always, I want to ask you, are you ever offended by the Democrats saying that people of color simply aren't able to get photo ID? I mean, to me, I just find it so ridiculous that that's their argument as to why they don't want voter ID in order to vote in an election.
Yeah, it's very insulting. I mean, you cannot function in society today without an ID, and you should show an ID when you vote. You know, I'm a president of a group called Americans for Citizen Voting, and what we do is we work with state legislatures to amend their state constitutions to say that only United States citizens can vote in our local elections. And we also deal with voter ID issues as well in these states. And in every one of these states that we're in, the African American population overwhelmingly supports voter ID. It's like in the high 70s, almost 80%.
It is absolutely ridiculous that that is even still an issue. The voting is the underpinning of our democracy. It's incredible to me. Now, I want to, of course, move on to the Democrat spending bill. This headline from the Federalist says Republicans' Christmas gift to voters is helping Democrats pass a major omnibus spending bill. Betsy McCoy, Senate Republicans are going along with this massive leftist giveaway.
Right.
Help me make it make sense for me.
It's a big mistake because Republicans go to the polls confident that Republican candidates will show fiscal restraint. We know that we're suffering this tremendous inflation, although it's coming down a bit, but we've suffered this tremendous inflation because of the increase in M2 money supply. How did that happen? Congress passed $6 trillion in giveaways. The last $3 trillion were not necessary because of COVID. That was vote buying and wealth redistribution. And that is what's caused this terrible inflation. For Republicans to continue to support this kind of spending is unconscionable.
Chris, what would you want to see out of Kevin McCarthy right now? Because he's also saying, well, they may be able to come to a deal on this omnibus spending package. And by the way, omnibus means lots of your money being thrown like spaghetti against the wall for a lot of different causes. And again, there's massive welfare expansion in this. There's all sorts of giveaways to the far left. What do you want to hear out of Kevin McCarthy right now?
Well, I want to hear Kevin McCarthy saying that I'm going to be the next Speaker of the House and that you can put your trust in me, that I can get a budget passed in the House so we don't need to do this ominous spending bill and that's going to be loaded all with liberal wish list items. You know, one thing about the omnibus bill that people look at it as a positive because it doesn't raise spending for an entire year. But we're hearing qualms from the Pentagon that this hurts the Pentagon because even though those spending levels are at the same level, we have a severely high inflation right now, and that hurts the military's spending because it doesn't keep pace with inflation.
Betsy McCoy, one word we all know too well. I know we had to clarify what omnibus means, but woke. When you go woke, you go broke. And the Biden administration, their woke agenda, they have finalized a rule to funnel workers' 401k funds into investments to support their woke causes like climate change and diversity and equity. We're running out of time. Real quick, I mean, this is just, how is this possible?
This is legalized theft. This is legalized theft. What they're doing is they're saying money managers can take your retirement funds and invest them in something that does not produce the highest return. Instead, it satisfies their political goals. Investing in windmills and solar panels instead of fossil fuels, for example, it will mean you have to work longer before you retire, or you will have to put more contributions into your retirement account. You are getting screwed.
Yeah,
and once again, it's the government trying to pick winners and losers, too.
Like a true New Yorker, you will get screwed, right? That's Betsy McCoy. I love her.
That's it. Florida just pulled $2 billion out of BlackRock for this reason.
The chief financial officer of the state of Florida is going to be joining us in just a little while to talk specifically about this issue and why Florida is pushing back against these types of woke investment practices that can damage your retirement. So stay tuned, certainly, for that. All right, folks, we're going to leave it there. We'll see you next hour.